Hello, and welcome to another episode of Untraditionally Traditional, a podcast with me, Brittany Duncan, a millennial homemaker. Join me each week as I share all the things I've learned that make keeping your home, garden, and life running smoothly, all while working. If you are enjoying the podcast, please be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcasting app so you get the episodes downloaded straight to you every Monday. Now, on to today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to Untraditionally Traditional, a millennial homemaker. This week's episode is about setting up your guest room. When you stay at someone's home and they make the guest room comfortable with thought-out details, you cannot help but to feel loved and at ease. And this is a feeling that I want guests to have when they come to our home that I strive to emulate. So here it goes. Here are some simple things you can do to make your guest room comfortable and thought out for your guests. First is a luggage rack. Having a piece for your guests to put their suitcases up off the ground or the floor so that they don't have to bend over every time they need something is really important, especially for your older house guests. Amazon has plenty of basic luggage supports that are collapsible and can be stored for later use. Or simply keep an eye out when you're thrifting. Johnson and I scored some beautiful luggage racks for $18 at a reuse shop that when I looked them up retailed for $400. You never know what you're going to find, so keep an eye out. Or think outside the box of different things that you could use, like an old chest or something like that that's sturdy and flat on the top that someone could rest a suitcase on. Second, write down important information for guests so that they don't have to ask. Think Wi-Fi password and any instructions for lighting. We have smart lighting, so on our instructions we have how to verbally ask Alexa to turn off the lights as well as to turn on and off a sound machine. Which brings me to the third point. Having a sound machine is a really nice touch. For those of us that sleep better with some white or brown noise, we probably have an app on our phone. But for others, it's a nice option to include. It also allows you, the homeowner, to be able to move about your home without as much fear of disturbing your house guests. Number 4, chargers. Caveat here, because we have one of those rooms where the outlets are not well thought out, and even with power strips, to plug in a phone, you'd have to get down on your hands and knees and reach under the bed and find the strip to plug in your charger. Not something we want our guests to have to do. So to solve the problem, Johnson and I included cell phone chargers on both nightstands that just live in our guest room. They're 24/7 so that when guests come, they already have a charger set up. They don't need to dig to plug theirs in. 5 is dimmers, and this one is courtesy of my father-in-law who casually brought a dimmer for our guest room. Point taken, Kelly, and thank you. Lighting is personal and fluid. Sometimes, such as when you're unpacking, you want a bright light, but other times, say when you're reading before bed, you want a more subtle light. Adding a dimmer switch to your bedside lights allows your guests to choose what kind of lighting they prefer. Just make sure that you use dimmable light bulbs to avoid that buzzing noise and slight flicker that'll happen if you're not using a dimmable bulb with a dimmer switch. Speaking of bedtime reading, it is a nice touch to have a selection of books and magazines in the guest room that your guests can enjoy before bed. An idea could be a local magazine that highlights the area or books that relate to activities you are passionate about in the area. Our guest room is the landing zone for Johnson's collection of books, which are primarily about mountaineering, skiing, and backcountry adventures, which gives guests a glimpse into some of our passions. I place cooking, gardening, and design magazines in there for another option. 7 is blankets and a fan. Temperature is also personal. In my family, I am the one who is always, and I mean always, cold. My mom always tells me before I visit, make sure you bring some warm pajamas and a sweater because I know that you get cold, and that's because they like to keep the AC high. I've also stayed at homes where even I am hot. We always tell our guests to feel free to adjust the temperature via the hallway thermometer, but most guests are not going to do that. They just don't feel comfortable. So allowing them to at least control the temperature in their room is important. Have 1 or 2 warm throw blankets and an oscillating fan for those summer months. Fortunately, here in Boise, even in the hottest summer months, you can open a window through the night for a cool breeze, which is really nice, but having a fan is a great option as well. Number 8 is to have some drawers and closet space for your guests. A lot of times, the guest room closet becomes the overflow for our closets, and we are just as guilty here in the Duncan household. But I do try to leave a section of space and some empty hangers so that guests can hang up some items they don't want to be wrinkled, and they've got access to hangers if they didn't use a hanging bag to pack their clothes. 9 is to have some snacks and water in the room, just some simple granola bars or crackers, a couple cookies, something like that in wrapped packages so that they're not going to go stale, but just something for guests to nibble on so that they don't, if they're hungry, they don't feel like they're imposing to ask for a snack, and they can just kind of help themselves to what's in their room. We also keep some water in our guest room with some glasses. We use a decanter, which is really pretty and a nice option for keeping water that has a lid and still looks aesthetically pleasing, but again, allows guests to get some water once they turn in for the night. If they, forget to bring a glass of water, they don't have to leave their bedroom. It's right there. And number 10, and the last of the list, is a well-stocked bathroom. Same concept here. You want your guests to have everything that they might need without having to ask you for it. So when we travel and we go to different hotels, I always pick up, the nicer shampoos, the little soaps, the vanity kit, a little sewing kit. It's nice to have some feminine products in there so that guests don't have to ask. All sorts of things. Dental floss, toothbrush, you name it, little mini deodorants. We have all that in a basket, and I store it under the sink. And then when we have guests, I just bring it out so that it's not collecting dust when we don't have guests, but it's all ready to go. I'm not having to go around the house and collect things. If a guest asks me for something, I'm not having to dig through our closet trying to find, the extra toothbrushes or this or that. It's just all there, ready to go for them to access themselves. I hope that this episode has been helpful. I know that we have some big holidays coming up where maybe you will be hosting. So hopefully these tips will help you to be a calmer host. All right, until next week, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this episode of Untraditionally Traditional. If you enjoy the podcast, please share it with those special people who would love it too, and write a review. For more tips and photos of my home and garden, follow Untraditionally Traditional Pod on Instagram. Until next week, let's continue to make our homes places of joy and service to ourselves and those we share them with.